This is Fox 5 Local News at 10.
Baltimore, a city on edge. Riot police and National Guard are patrolling the streets tonight. A citywide curfew is now in effect.
This combined force will not tolerate violence or looting.
We explained to them a week ago, no justice, no peace, so it's not going to be no peace.
Crowds have rallied all day as communities cleaned up the damage from yesterday's riots. Fox 5's complete coverage of the unrest in Baltimore starts right now. And we will start that live coverage with a live shot from Sky Fox tonight, looking down at the streets of Baltimore as that 10 p.m. curfew has now gone into effect for the entire city of Baltimore. Police are patrolling the streets. We have learned of some violence breaking out just a short time ago at 9th Street and Patapsco Road. We're told a few minutes ago police were making some arrests when some people threw rocks and bricks at those officers. We're told that one officer suffered minor injuries. Again, that just a few moments ago. We thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tony Perkins.
And I'm Sean Yancey. 2,000 National Guardsmen and law enforcement officers, 1,000 of them are expected to be on the streets of Baltimore overnight to keep the peace. Fox 5 is all over this story tonight with a team of reporters. Let's get right to Marina Morocco. So, Marina, we just looked at our live shot. It does not appear that people are heeding to this 10 o'clock curfew.
They're not, Sean, and that's the problem here. The problem is what's going to happen now, because it's officially into curfew now, like you very well said. Now take a look behind me here. This is the police line, Baltimore City Police, right behind me here in full tactical gear, armored vehicles as well. And unfortunately, we have seen several large police vans make their way past this police line, and those vans will hold arrested people if need be, and that's going to be an issue here. The tension, you can cut it with a knife out here. A lot of back and forth between the crowd and police. There's a standoff between some demonstrators out here, and unfortunately we don't know what police officers are going to do because the curfew is well into effect now. Now we have seen them with large tear gas cannons. They are ready, and there are mounted police standing by close to where we're standing here. I'll tell you what, out here we've seen larger crowds before, but we've never seen them with as much tension palpable in the air as there is tonight. Sean?
All right, Marina, let me ask you a question. Sean and I were up there in Baltimore earlier this evening, and there was a relative sense of calm across much of the city this afternoon heading into the evening. But does it seem as though people are a bit more agitated now, and are they being intentionally defiant by not being indoors now that the curfew has begun?
Without a doubt, there is that sense of defiancy out here. Now, I will tell you, physically, there have been no aggressive protesters or demonstrators. For the most part, everyone's been fairly peaceful. It's been more about words and the conversation that's being held right up front, up here in front of these officers. Now, you can see just behind me here, there are orange cones. Those cones have been set up to kind of divide and give some space between officers and those protesters that come up to them defiantly, taking pictures up at their face and saying very harsh words. And that's the problem here. It's well into 10 o'clock. There are choppers up above on their speakers saying curfew is now in effect. It's what's going to happen next in the next coming minutes here. That's to be seen. Unfortunately, this could turn ugly. Tony, Sean?
Hey, Marina, were you able to talk to anyone before we went on the air? I mean, did they decide to collectively that we're going to stay out here on the streets and defy this curfew? Or, you know, for the most part, do you think people are really heeding the message? It's just a certain group in a certain area.
I think, Sean, you're right. It is a certain group in a certain area because we definitely haven't seen the mass that we've seen before. But you can see there are some people that are agitated, a small group of protesters, not like earlier. Earlier, we did see those peaceful demonstrations just here at this epicenter. Everything was peaceful. People were dancing. There was music out in the streets. Now there are people yelling. There are people shouting, but a much smaller group. And it seems like it's that group that had this plan to not heed the warning, not heed that curfew. Sean?
Hey, Marina, I hate to drag this out, but we hear them chanting something behind you. Can you tell what they're talking about? What are they saying?
They're not so much chants there, it's more asking who did it. They want to ask the police officers that you see behind me here in tactical gear with shields. They're asking them who did it. Who's behind all of this? Who started this with Freddie Gray? We bring back the conversation to April 12th, and this is what this is all about, Sean.
Okay, they are taking this back to Freddie Gray and how he died. All right, Marina Morocco, thank you. We appreciate your report. Keep us updated. Just a short time ago, Baltimore police wrapped up a news conference where they talked about preparing for the curfew that is now in effect.
Officers are encouraging people to respect the curfew and get off of the streets. Fox 5's Rick Boone continues our team coverage now with more. Rick.
Hey there, Tony and Sean. Yeah, you know, pretty much what Marina was talking about, there's a lot of police brigades pretty much like this happening all throughout Baltimore. And yeah, that 10 o'clock curfew is supposed to go into effect, but it's not happening right now. Folks are still out here right now. They're supposed to be inside. Not only folks are at this point, they're also driving around Baltimore right now, so they are not inside. Lots of people are not yielding to that 10 o'clock curfew. Just about 20 minutes or so from now, 20 minutes ago from now, rather, the police department gave a press conference indicating what they were hoping was going to be a smooth night tonight. Take a listen.
There have been a couple of incidents. There's been some interactions. We have not affected any arrests in the last couple of hours, but there is a growing indication in some of what we're seeing that the mood has shifted a little bit. We're hoping that that's just a tone, and that at 10 o'clock when the curfew goes into effect, everyone will have gone home peacefully. We truly hope that the message is getting out that this police department will, in fact, support the enforce the curfew across the city.
And back here with us, and once again, the folks are out here not in the house, not yielding to this curfew. There's one guy right here, and why are you not home right now?
I'm not home because it's a reason for me to be out here. I don't live around here right now, but I came around here to make sure that it's known. Like, they gave us a 10 o'clock curfew for no reason, because it's something the police did. We didn't do this. The police did this. All they got to do is respect people. It's a human nature. I'm out here.
And are you gonna go? Are you gonna go home anytime soon?
No, I'm not going home. I'm not going home.
Okay, and that seems to be the contentions of the tonight. Everyone's going to stay out as late as they possibly can. We're going to check out different parts of Baltimore the next time we check back with you. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you so much. We're going to let Rick get to the other part of Baltimore so we can continue our coverage tonight.
All right, meanwhile, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan spent part of the day going around the city surveying the damage that was done last night. He says resources will remain in Baltimore until the threat of violence is over.
Acts of violence and destruction of property cannot and will not be tolerated.
The governor says Baltimore is getting support from several other states and the District of Columbia.
You know, some people have sharply criticized Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake and Police Commissioner Anthony Bass for waiting too long to respond to yesterday's violence. Well, they responded to their critics today.
I understand that from the outside, you don't know, you can't see everything that I see. You don't know all the different moving pieces.
Why didn't you move faster? Because there are 14, 15, and 16-year-old kids out there. Do you want people using force on 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that are out there? And they're old enough to know better. They're old enough to know not to do those things. They're old enough to be accountable, but they're still kids, unfortunately.
Commissioner Batts says hundreds of officers were deployed and the city was prepared to deal with the violence. Just quickly, I want to bring this up here in D.C. D.C. police moments ago tweeting out demonstrators were out at the intersections of 14th and U. Not sure if this is related to what's going on in Baltimore, but they were following rolling road closures there. The demonstrators are beginning to disperse now from 14th and U Street. Police officers are remaining on the scene here in Washington. Of course, we will monitor that and keep you posted.
All right, meanwhile, businesses are taking a hit in Baltimore. Parts of the city are virtually shut down, but others say they're open for business.
That's right. Fox 5's Sarah Simmons continues our team coverage tonight. She joined us from near the Inner Harbor with that part of the story. Sarah?
Well, Sean and Tony, some of the businesses down here in the Inner Harbor, some were closed, some were open, but there weren't very many people, as you can imagine, inside. And as 10 o'clock hit, and even before then, as you know, the National Guard has been a massive presence here over the last day or so, and they are here at every entrance point for the most part. If I back out here, you can see them out here, and they're at every entrance point, as I mentioned, so no one is allowed into the Inner Harbor. But businesses don't want to give anybody the wrong impression here. They say they're open for business.
Everything may look normal at the Inner Harbor, but when you take a closer look, it's anything but normal. National Guardsmen and police line the waterfront trying to make tourists and residents feel safe.
I went to work on Monday, and then yesterday we were told at like 2:30 that you got to go home. Just leave right now. That was the scary part, but other than that, I felt comfortable today walking around. I walked around on the harbor, got some food. I'm okay with it.
But Baltimore residents are not okay with the riots and looting that are shifting attention away from the important issue.
I come from India where there are billions of people protesting for everything. So I understand the anger, I understand the crowd mentality behind it, but unfortunately they lost focus and it's no longer about Freddie Gray. That's what it feels like.
Business owners around town are frustrated. They're taking a hit. But Giovanna Blatterman placed this sign outside a restaurant in Little Italy, spreading the word that Baltimore is open for business.
We've been hearing for 4 days now, shut Baltimore down, Baltimore is shut down, and we're not. I know there's a few crazy things going on, but I don't think it's the intent of Baltimore citizens and businesses to be shut down. We're still alive and well. I feel really, really bad for my neighbors that are being hurt right now, the people, the residents of the areas that have had the riots. So our hearts go out to them too. I don't think they want that for themselves.
Now back out here live, you can take a look at what is a very familiar scene down here at the Inner Harbor. You got the Hard Rock Cafe, Barnes & Nobles. You recognize it for sure. Now, of course, this is a busy area, and it would have been even busier tonight if there had been a Baltimore Orioles game, which, of course, has been canceled. So very quiet down here. And, it was interesting. Even though we see all the National Guard's presence down here at the Inner Harbor, even just going into Little Italy, which is not that far from here, there were Baltimore police officers that were walking around the neighborhood. Even though it was quiet there, they were just really there as a presence to let people know that they are safe. That's the latest here in downtown Baltimore. Back to you, Tony and Sean.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. All right, we're going to stay on top of this developing situation in Baltimore tonight. Let's take you back out live there. Sky Fox over the scene. Of course, it is now 10:12 outside. The curfew is in effect, but you can still see a large crowd of people that are gathered at this particular intersection, North Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue. Police are asking motorists to avoid this area. We can also see police out there on the streets. We will have much more of this continuing story coming up right here on Fox 5 News at 10.
And later, large crowds also gathering here in D.C. today as the Supreme Court tackled key issues involving same-sex marriage. Sue, what are you working on tonight?
Hi there, Tony. I'm working on trying to find another day as nice as the one we had today. We got up to 72 degrees and it's still very mild and comfortable out there tonight. And yeah, I think we can do another warm day, but we've got a coastal area of low pressure to keep an eye on. I'll let you know what that is going to do to our forecast as we get later on down this last week of April. Fox 5 News at 10 will be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing to monitor the situation in Baltimore. Of course, the citywide curfew went into effect tonight at about 10:16. These are live images out of Baltimore tonight where you can see there are still dozens of people that are still gathered in the streets. They are defying this 10 p.m. curfew. Just a short time ago, we started to see police march towards them.
It is 10:16 now. That curfew went into place 15 minutes ago. Police warning people that they would make arrests, and they've been using bullhorns to make announcements, sirens. They're tweeting it. They've been advertising it all day long on TV and radio in Baltimore, trying to make sure people know about the curfew, asking them to go indoors, and they have said they will make arrests. So what we've seen so far is a standoff. It has been mostly peaceful, although during the commercial break we saw someone throw something. Something else was just thrown towards the police, and the police did begin to move just a couple of moments ago.
That's right. In fact, Baltimore police tweeting just a short time ago, the group at North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, which is where this is, the group is becoming more aggressive. They are now throwing items at police. It's really sad because earlier today we saw so many peaceful demonstrations and people doing so many wonderful things. We saw a line of people who put themselves in between demonstrators and actually the police. So when agitators might come up or say something to the police, there's a group of people would say, hey, let's talk about this. This is not the way we want this to go down. But we heard we heard one of the people tell Rick Boone a short time ago that they weren't going to go home because of the 10 o'clock curfew, because he said, in his words, they didn't start this, the police did, referring back to the death of Freddie Gray.
All right, this is our Sky Fox helicopter up flying over Baltimore. And tell me again the intersection, this particular intersection?
This is North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, as we watch what's going on there. Most reports today have been talking about peaceful gatherings. As Sean said, a lot of citizens, volunteers out cleaning up neighborhoods, getting between police and protesters. There has not been anywhere near the degree of violence or activity today that we saw yesterday afternoon and last night. That has been a good thing. There has been concern about what would happen once we got to the 10 o'clock hour. Again, now that we are there, so far so good, but here we go again. Here we see the police beginning to move, and this is an attempt to disperse these crowds to enforce the curfew, which they did say they will enforce.
And we heard from the police commissioner, spokesperson for the police department earlier tonight, who says they do plan to make arrests. You can see right now, and we're seeing reports from reporters there that are on the ground, that people are throwing bottles and other items at the police department. We understand that Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings, who does not live far from this area, is down there on the streets right now urging people to go home. We are hearing reports that, you know, some of the people on the streets are kind of, you know, ignoring him. This is just, you know, as we're watching this, these are live images coming out of Baltimore tonight. Let's hope that this will end peacefully. You can see again, police standing there with their riot gear on. There are about, I don't know, maybe roughly 100 people still in the streets defying this curfew tonight. Bringing you up to date, just a short time ago, Baltimore City Police did tweet that they had been making some arrests a short time ago when some individuals began throwing rocks and bricks. I don't know that it was at this particular location. We do know that that was about 30, 40 minutes ago. One officer was hurt during that skirmish. Right now, though, the main thing is they are emphasizing that this curfew is in effect. It is in effect until 5 a.m. Some are wondering, well, does this mean nobody can be on the streets? No, it does not. There are exceptions to the curfew, people who have to go to and from work. However, those people should be prepared to be asked by police for ID and to explain where they are going. They have asked that all non-essential businesses close, so shopping malls, stores, restaurants, bars, entertainment establishments, all of that type of thing close. Medical personnel, essential personnel, they can be on the streets going to and from work, emergency personnel as well. But other than that, the general citizens of Baltimore, and this is to maintain peace, have been instructed to go inside, be home. That's right. We know yesterday that Maryland Governor Larry Hogan declared a state of emergency and activated the National Guard. We understand as many as 2,000 troops expected to be on the ground there tonight, with additional backup from Maryland state troopers, troopers from Pennsylvania and surrounding counties there, just hoping to keep the peace on the streets tonight. The curfew went into effect about 21 minutes ago. It is supposed to be citywide. It is supposed to last until 5 a.m., but you can see there are still a handful of people, 100 people or so in this particular area who are being defiant right now. One of these people told one of our reporters just a short time ago that he didn't feel it was fair, that the police don't have the right, or no one has the right to tell them to go home, because they are not the ones who started this going back to what this is all about, which is Freddie Gray, who died while in police custody. And to this point, we are still waiting for the results of the investigation to explain how, by all accounts, according to his attorney, a healthy 25-year-old man ended up dying with a severe spinal cord injury after being taken into police custody. We should say that there is every expectation at this point that that report will be issued this Friday. So some answers are forthcoming. And you know, the man that we saw talking to Rick Boone saying, listen, we can be out in the streets because we didn't start this, as you say, Sean. True, but being out in the streets, you're not going to get answers tonight. Right. It's not like police were going to come forward and say, well, here's what happened. And you know what we should point out here? This is just a handful of people. This is not, by any means, in the pictures that we are seeing right here, the majority of Baltimore. It appears that the majority of the city is adhering to this curfew tonight. This just appears to be a handful of people. Earlier today, we saw images in direct contrast to this. We saw people working with their neighbors, sweeping up the glass from the looting and the destruction last night. We saw people taking bottles of water to those police officers who have been standing out there for hours and taking them to the firefighters who worked all night long, putting out dozens of building fires and car fires last night.
There are, as is almost always the case, at least in American cities, when you have this type of disruption. All right, what is that? There's something, I don't know if that was a canister fired by police or if that's something that went off. Okay, now we're starting to see. It looked like it came from the police and was kicked back or thrown back towards the police officers. This may be tear gas canisters or something like that. Again, this is an attempt. Now we see things being thrown at the police. Yeah, these are canisters being used to try to disperse this crowd and get people to go home. We're not there. We can't tell you. It may be tear gas. That's what it seems.
Right.
Very interesting, though, because some of these canisters are being picked up and thrown right back at the officers.
We do know that at 10 o'clock, the officers said that they would begin to start their curfew procedure or the shutting down to enforce the curfew procedures, and this may very well be a part of their plan. We did not get the details of the plan. I don't believe that they released exactly what happened, because certainly they were all hoping, just like everyone else, that this curfew people would adhere to the curfew, the citywide curfew, which started tonight at 10 o'clock. It's now 10:24. A handful of people still out there on the streets tonight, and it does appear that police in riot gear are throwing some sort of canisters, what's believed to be tear gas canisters, hoping to disperse this crowd to get those people to go home.
As we mentioned yesterday and last night, very interesting phenomena in our new era of social media. The Baltimore Police Department, what you would call live tweeting this event 4 minutes ago, tweeting almost as if this is a countdown, 4 minutes ago, tweeting the group at North Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, which is what we're seeing, continues to be aggressive. They are throwing items at police officers. 1 minute later, the police department tweeted, the emergency curfew went into effect at 10 p.m. tonight. The group at North Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue refuses to leave the area. As I said, almost like a countdown towards, all right, we are about to take action. Here's why. We're telling you what's happening here and how these people are disobeying orders from the city.
All right, our Fox 5's Rick Boone is live on the ground. He is near the scene of all this. Rick, what can you tell us? We can see some of the smoke going up behind you. Is that tear gas, Rick?
That is tear gas. We just saw that pop off just a little while ago. My cameraman, you come in as close as you want to. And hey, camera guy, if you feel unsafe, stop. I'm going to keep walking until I feel I'm safe. We're going to take you all a little bit closer. This is Pennsylvania North. We'll give you a little indication here. Oh, God, you can really smell that tear gas here. This is where the police force is, where they're dealing with residents who once again decided not to go home. They're still out here tonight. The cops did throw some tear gas containers into the street, hoping to disperse the crowd a little bit. It did work for a little while, but then folks still seem to be hanging out here. There seems to be a lot more media that I see right here in front of me than actual residents, but let me walk a little bit around here to this side, and we might be able to see some residents, if they didn't scatter when those tear can canisters started to go off, and now I'm starting to do what I've seen on these other TV reports. Swallowing is not really good right now. But this is a police force that's in place. This is at North in Pennsylvania. Cops going in that direction. Tear gas containers right over there. And on the other side of the street, that's where we have residents that they're trying to disperse, all trying to get them to go home and trying to get them to... A while ago that, you know, obviously folks can be out here if they have to go to work or something like that. But I'm guessing these folks that are out throughout the overnight. Hold on a second. Back up. I don't know what's going on. Stay with us. Don't leave. Stay with us. Keep the shot hot. Okay. Not quite sure what was going on. It seemed to be some type of disturbance in the crowd, so we decided to back up there a little bit. Looks like they are actually police officers. Stay with me. Looks like they may have thrown something right back at the police officers, but it looks like it probably was a piece of debris. Looking at some of the pictures that have been on Twitter lately, you really have to watch out for that because they are hitting everybody. No one is pretty much free of getting any defenses around here. Just heard a little glass break. I guess that was probably just off in the back. But I don't see a lot of the vandals and folks who have been the agitators. They seem to be on that side, on the other side of the police force. They aren't seem to be racing towards them. We're on the other end, by the way, if you're wondering where we are from where Marina's at. She's up the street from where I'm at, like a couple of blocks from where I'm located right now. And I tell you what, I'm breathing a little hard right now. Let me toss it on back to you, Ball, because I'm dealing with this tear gas. So give me about 2 minutes and I'll talk to you again, okay?
Okay, all right, Rick, we certainly appreciate that. I mean, from that perspective there where you could see where Rick was heading, it certainly seems intense, and we are looking at other live images. You guys, can we go back to the chopper pictures? Okay,
We're also going to go, Rick mentioned Marina Morocco, who's not far from where he is. Let's go to Marina. Are you there, Marina?
Hey guys, I don't know if we're on a wide shot here, but you can see how fairly desolate the street is right here on the police line. Just on the other end, that's where Rick Boone is. You'll see there the tear gas and the smoke bombs off. We heard them go off just minutes ago, and this is virtually just a ghost town on this side. That's not to say what's going on the other side is not quite the opposite of what we're seeing out here. We're still seeing some vehicles traveling, though, through the area, not heeding the curfew, and that's the problem. Actually, if we can pan over here, Eugene, you're going to see an armored vehicle start to make its way towards the police line here. Just down that alley, there's mounted officers waiting as well. Fortunately, though, there's not a large crowd out here, but they did deploy the smoke bombs and the tear gas in effect to get rid of all the people out here. And you can see the mounted police, they're getting ready to walk up this street up to CVS. That's the epicenter of where this is all going down. You see that armored vehicle now making its way. It's going to cross in through that police line, and they're just up on the loudspeaker, on the bullhorns of the chopper, saying, media, get out. They're asking us to get out, and they're asking the crowd to go home because curfew is very well in effect. Tony, Sean?
Hey, Marina, you said who is coming over the loudspeaker asking the media to leave? Or are these people in the crowd, or this city officials, law enforcement officials?
No, this is Baltimore City Police. Now, we had understood as part of the media we were exempt from this curfew. That curfew, as you know, from 10 till 5 in the morning. Now, all of a sudden, just as soon as 10:10, 10:15 hit, they started on the bullhorn saying, media, leave the premises immediately. They were also asking the crowd to leave. And Sean, as we're talking, we're starting to see more armored vehicles make their way past this police line onto the other side here of North and Pennsylvania, essentially the epicenter of where everything's been happening throughout these past few days here. Not sure what the crowd is like on the other end, but I do see a strong contingent also of Baltimore police also forming a line. I can tell you there are quite a number of armored vehicles here. Not sure what they're preparing for, but definitely want to get the crowds off the street. And right now it seems like it's fairly starting to empty. Not sure what the other side is like. Sean, Tony?
I believe, Marina, we can actually see the other side, guys. If we can take the chopper pictures again, it does look like if this was the same police line we saw earlier, people are indeed, you can see there were, looked like what to be 100 people there earlier. They started, throwing tear gas. You can see for the most part, people have dispersed. That crowd is cleared out.
If I'm understanding what I'm seeing correctly, I believe that Marina, if you're looking at your TV screen, she must be somewhere on the left side of your screen behind the police line. There you see the police line in the middle of the street, and then on the right side of your screen, that's somewhere where Rick Boone was with the crowd. So this is giving us, and the chopper's giving us a very good view of everything that's happening there. It does look like they have had an impact on that crowd, and there has been, there's another police line back there. That may be the one that Marina, in fact, I suspect that's the one that Marina is behind. But it does look as though that that crowd has, in fact, there's Marina. You can see her. Thank you, guys. The crowd, it looks like.
She waved at us.
Right, has in fact dispersed. Well, some of the crowd has dispersed from the pictures that we were seeing just a moment ago. So again, these warnings being heeded. We don't quite understand the announcement being made from Baltimore police, I believe from that chopper saying, telling the media to leave as well. I don't think most of the media is going anyplace at this point.
No, Marina, I know you're still on the ground. We saw you waving. We appreciate to give us perspective from where your location is. Again, Marina is on the opposite end from what we are seeing right here. Marina, give us an idea of what's going on right now on the ground.
Look, Right now, for the most part, Sean, it's all media out here. I mean, there are, I would say, maybe a dozen people that just keep being, you know, the same thing we've seen throughout the night. Very defiant. They're running up to this police line. They're saying harsh words. We did see a couple bottles that were actually thrown right into the police line. One of them, Sean, I'll tell you, was filled with urine. The policemen here, they took it. They didn't say or do anything. One of them lost their nightstick. That was a very tense moment as well here in the crowd, but so far so good. I will tell you, though, however, as this curfew is in effect, we still are seeing vehicles. You can hear them honking right into my microphone. This curfew very well into effect, and people are still driving by. They have their cell phones out. It's almost as if, you know, when people come out during hurricanes to check out the damage, that's exactly what they're doing here. They have their cell phones out, their heads out the window. They want to experience this firsthand, and I'll tell you what, if you're watching us and you're in Baltimore, don't come out here because the risk out here of getting tear gas in your face is way too great here to be out on the streets.
Just want to mention that the Baltimore Police Department, we have seen what appears to us to be tear gas. Rick Boone believed it was tear gas as well. Baltimore Police also saying that they are now deploying pepper balls at the aggressive crowd at North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. They just tweeted that out 2 minutes ago. So in addition to what we were seeing, they were also firing pepper balls at them.
And again, it seems like it was just in this particular intersection. Overall, it appears that the majority of Baltimore was adhering to that 10 p.m. curfew, began about 33 minutes ago. Just a handful of people who were still out there on the streets tonight. Guys, if we can go back to the chopper picture, looks like something else may be going on. We're starting to see more smoke. You can see there in the top of your screen. Maybe if our chopper can move up a little bit, hopefully we can see what's going on. Again, just a few people still out there in the streets, so maybe police are trying to get these last handful of people off the streets, hoping to get them adhere to this 10 p.m. curfew.
Those of you who are writing to us or tweeting to us or what have you, out of concern for our reporters, we do appreciate that very much. Rest assured that our reporters will do the best that they can to stay out of harm's way. They know to do that, and at any time that a reporter says, hey, we got to shut down, this is dangerous, they will do that. And no one's going to be holding them to, no, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. So that's, don't worry about that. And thank you for expressing that concern.
Absolutely. Again, Baltimore City Police tweeting out they are now deploying pepper balls at the aggressive crowd at North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue in Baltimore. Those are the smoke plumes we see there from these pepper balls. They are saying anyone who remains out there on the streets who does not meet the exceptions are now in violation of this emergency curfew. We should tell you that the media was supposed to be a part of the exceptions. Anybody who's working, so they're driving to work right now, going to the hospital, or who has a valid reason to be out there is part of the exception. But for the most part, everyone else should be off the streets and should be home.
Earlier this evening, Sean and I had the opportunity to broadcast from Baltimore, from Federal Hill, which overlooks the city of Baltimore. So we certainly were not in the riot zone, as it were, but it did provide an interesting contrast. Obviously, our reporters were on the ground in those neighborhoods most affected, but it was a little strange, in fact, looking over the city.
Absolutely.
You could see in the distance where some crowds were, where there was police activity, a lot of police vehicles and the like. But overall, the majority of the city, of course, very peaceful, and in many places, in many ways, going about their daily business as if nothing was going on. These are isolated. There's one main area where all of this has been happening. Marina put it in perspective a moment ago when she mentioned the CVS, which is right near where all this is going on. So it's one main area on the west side of Baltimore where most of this activity is, in fact, taking place. Again, now we see more movement by the police, moving in a very slow fashion. Yes.
Unfortunately, you know, this is Baltimore police just seconds ago tweeted out a group of people have just started a fire outside the library, which is located at Pennsylvania and North Avenue, which is right here where we've been watching all of this going on. So perhaps this is the other side where we're not exactly sure which part is Pennsylvania, which part is North Avenue. Baltimore police saying a group of people just started a fire outside of the library. Officers, they say, are now advancing on the group, even though they remain aggressive and disorderly. Let's see if we can get our chopper to pan out to see if they can see possibly where this fire may be happening, where these people have now started the fire. You know, certainly this is not what they wanted. You know, the images that we saw today were so different than what this handful of people who was out there right now doing. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw people who didn't even live necessarily in that community coming to help out other people, saying, hey, let's not be aggressive towards the police. Let's back off. Let's be patient. Certainly, we understand your frustration. We certainly understand why you are upset, but let's settle this in a much different way. And that's what we've been seeing all day until right about now.
Yeah. This, you know, for some people, they were referring to this as the moment of truth, as it were, because this is when the curfew would go into effect, and this is when there would, in all likelihood, unless everybody did obey the curfew and go home, there would be some confrontation. So that's what we're seeing happening right now. Again, the police officers and a couple of armored vehicles there have moved into a new position. It looks like most, or no, I won't say most, but much of the crowd has dispersed. We are still seeing some individuals there on that corner. I don't see smoke or anything coming from wherever that fire has been started.
All right, let's see if we can, do we still have Marina or do we have Rick? We have Marina's camera. All right, let's see if we can take the pictures from on the ground right now. You can see the other side of the intersection from what we were just showing you. And as Marina reported a short time ago, for the most part, this intersection is clear. There is no one out there. People are adhering to the curfew. It was just in that other area that we saw where we saw a small group of people. You can see Marina right now. I don't know if she's going to go. All right, Marina,
Hey,
tell us what's going on now on the ground. Okay.
So like you guys were saying, I was listening to you guys say, I can't see obviously the chopper shots up above here, and the crowd seems like it's dispersed on the other side of the police line where we're standing here. I can tell you, everyone out here, this is all media. And there are a couple people, believe it or not, from the Red Cross that made their way out here to offer those people who were out here, who their businesses had been looted, or if they'd been victimized of some sort, either food, water, something to give them. But for the most part, everyone that's out here, it's media. You can see these live trucks. Our photographer is actually on the top of our live truck to try and give you guys a better vantage point of everything that's happening behind us here. And you can see that plume of tear gas starting to dissipate, but they haven't launched any more just yet. And that leads me to believe that on the other side of this police line, it seems like the crowd over there is dispersing as much as they have where we're standing.
So, Marina, let me ask you, just a second ago, we saw what appeared to be maybe another plume of smoke from the other side. I know you can't see on the other side of that police line. What else are you seeing from your location? From your side, it looks like the streets are mostly clear.
Yes, they are, Sean. The streets, for the most part, here are clear. We did see a couple armored vehicles. I'm going to start trying to get on top of this truck so I can get a better vantage point here from up above with our photographer, Eugene. But yeah, it seems like everything's clear. It seems like on that corner there's a business there and there's not a large crowd. All I can see are about, I want to count like 3-4 tactical vehicles. And I'll tell you, up top, you see these guys and it appears like they're with some sort of semi-automatic rifle. That's not the case. They're actually tear gas cannons. We've not seen them been deployed, but I'll tell you, we just heard a loud boom. Not sure what that is. I don't see. All right, the police line is moving now. I don't know if we can pan here to the police line. You see them, they're rearranging themselves. Eugene, can you take a shot of that? All right, I'm up above here on the truck. We heard a loud boom. I'm not sure what that is, Sean. I don't know if you guys have a better vantage point there on the chopper that may give you guys a better perspective as to what exactly is taking place. But I'll tell you, we have 1, 2 police choppers circling the area here with fairly large lights, trying to kind of gather and gauge whether there's a large crowd out here. But it seems like everyone, for the most part, is out of this area. And once again, we're at the epicenter here, just about a block away. Around the corner is that CVS that was looted and burned yesterday.
Marina, go ahead.
It seems, Marina, that the police officers, when they move, they're moving in, obviously they're moving in unison, and it seems like there's some kind of strategy being deployed here to move into certain positions at certain times, I guess based on what they have in front of them. So now they're pretty much, it's, what is that, a right angle? Looking at those two streets there. Again, I'm not sure which street is which, but that's the position that they've put themselves into right now.
Hey, we also understand that we have Rick Boone back. Hey, Rick, let me ask you, from your vantage point, we know you're on the other side of where Marina is. Any sign of the National Guard out there? We understand that maybe they may be moving in some of their vehicles at this point. What are you seeing?
Sean, I think you said about the National Guard. I know we got a little bit of technical problems, but you know what? We're just going to work with it. Let me look for your National Guard aspect. No, I don't see it, but you know what I see? I see police moving. Come on, let's move with me. let's see what we got going on here. We got Baltimore police moving in unison here. Obviously, they're going towards a line. Not quite sure whether or not they're preparing for anybody. I do see some possible agitators, some folks down in that area. I tell you what, let's go down in this area. I know even if our shot breaks up, just take Sky Fox. Just take Sky Fox. Come on this way. We're going to go down in this area and see if we can get as close as we possibly can to what the line that they're trying to block up to. Pardon me here, buddy. This is, once again, North Avenue, not so far from where Marina's location is. National Guard, oh, there you go. There you go, Sean. There's your National Guard members over there. And my eyesight is good, I believe. That's the National Guard, right? That's National, you can zoom in, that's the National Guard. Yeah, those National Guard members right there, they have arrived here on the scene. So it looks like they are the backup to Baltimore police that are having this line here. And we're going to go down just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. We definitely have to look out for our safety here the best way we possibly can. And we're going to find out the line that they're getting close to. Right now, I don't see any particular line of the agitators. I do see some young people that are down here. Here we go. So these are the folks beyond this this camera crew. I think that's our station in Philadelphia right there, Fox 29. They're down here. Oh, they're on the other side. They're on the other side. It appears to be with some of the agitators. Bingo. There we go. And those are the folks that are throwing rocks and every debris towards the officers. And that's why this line is in existence up here. So it's kind of like a standoff, a little face-off going on in this area. Just a few. Looks like it's probably, I would say, about 30, maybe. They have police helicopters and also news crews circling this angle. And, of course, the police line is up there. And I'm going to guess, not that I'm a cop, but I'm going to guess that there's probably a police tactical team behind them or on the side of them, just to, if they have to do a backup. Go ahead. I hear you trying to say a question.
Yeah, we're
going to
take,
take,
we're
we're
taking the
zone
chopper picture right now. As you can see, it looks like they are moving that police line further out, trying to push back on the handful of people that are still defying this curfew out there tonight. As Rick said, we are also seeing the National Guard on the scene. I believe we're expecting about 2,000 to be on the ground tonight as support to Baltimore City Police and a number of other law enforcement members from around the country and in the state of Maryland are also there tonight to help keep the peace.
2,000 National Guard, 1,000 Baltimore police officers. We know they've been reinforced by other police officers from other jurisdictions, including right here. Washington, D.C. sent some police officers up as well. They're not all in this one location. They're spread across Baltimore. In fact, earlier, I think we had Sarah Simmons talking about the Inner Harbor, and when we were in Baltimore earlier this evening, those were National Guardsmen surrounding Inner Harbor. I mean, when I say surrounding, like every 2 feet, there was a National Guardsman there just kind of staying there so no one could get to that site. So they're spread across the city. Again, right now we are focused on this one area of activity, kind of the epicenter of where everything has happened over the past couple of days, because this is where all the quote-unquote action is right now. Not that there's been a lot of action. However, there have been items thrown. There has been at least one police officer injured from those items thrown, and there has been tear gas dispersed and pepper balls dispersed to try to break up these crowds, which it looks like they have done to some extent. We are still seeing this group of people on the corner there, and these people right around this vehicle here, but in point of fact, they seem to be, at this point, merely defying the curfew. They don't seem to be actively engaged in throwing anything, agitating the police. We don't know if they're yelling stuff or not, but right now it looks like they're mainly standing around in defiance of the curfew.
We want to take you back to a short time ago to show you how this all began. I believe we have video of what sparked this all. Let's roll that if we can. Okay, so you were taking a look. These are recorded images. This happened at about, 10 minutes after 10 tonight when we started to see people who were in the crowd. About 100 people started throwing. There were reports they were throwing glass bottles and possibly rocks at police. At a certain point, the police started firing back with what is believed to be pepper balls or tear gas. And all of a sudden, we started to see the crowds disperse. Now, this was probably about 30 minutes or so ago. These are not live images. This is how this all began. Since then, we've seen the crowd disperse a bit, and we've started to see the police line expand and push outward.
All right, we are this, and this is from moments ago, right? So that's we continue to look at that same area. Things have quieted down a little bit. Hey, just want to mention our Will Thomas, who is also monitoring things in the newsroom, just tweeted out, I guess he has gotten, or our newsroom has gotten some clarification on what's going on with the police there. Police are saying that credentialed members of the media are exempt from the emergency curfew. So, you know, we're hearing that some are saying the media has to leave, but in fact, Will Thomas tweeting just a moment ago that police are saying credentialed members of the media are exempt from the curfew. They can be there. Of course, they urge the media to use caution. So thank you for getting that word from Will Thomas.
If you have been watching our coverage, you can see the police now are at crossing the intersection here, all areas of this intersection right now. They are pushing out the police line. This is where we've seen a small group of people who've gathered to defy the curfew tonight. It looks like they're bringing in one of their police command vehicles now as backup. For the most part, the city of Baltimore has heeded this citywide curfew, which started 48 minutes ago at 10 o'clock. They have heeded the curfew to stay off of the streets. We've seen a small handful of people causing the disruption there tonight, which of course is a direct contrast to the peaceful scenes that we saw earlier today. We saw people who live in the community policing their own neighborhood, telling the people who were trying to be violent or trying to stir up things to stop or to go home or to leave the area. We saw people who live here saying, this is our neighborhood. We don't want you here. We are trying to keep the peace. In fact, we saw people taking bottles of water to the police. We saw them taking bottles of water to the fire department, many of whom were out all night long trying to put out the hot spots and the many fires that were set overnight. So again, these are live pictures right now from Sky Fox over the streets in Baltimore. A handful of people are still on the streets tonight defying that citywide curfew, which went into effect at 10 o'clock and lasts until 5 a.m.
That indeed is the other side of this story. It's not what you're seeing at this moment, because there is this police activity at this moment, as some people are refusing to abide by the curfew. But that is the other side of the story today. In some ways, an extraordinary day, because frequently when you see riots and those kinds of disturbances, they go on for days and days and days. Yes, we are seeing a second day of activity now, but tonight has been, and today, certainly nothing like what yesterday was. Marina Morocco is on the scene. Let's go back to her. We've reestablished that shot. Marina, what's the latest?
Hey, Tony, it seems like things, like you've said, are starting to calm down. We did see a little action on the other side of this police line that's behind me here. The police line directly behind this one was starting to shift, but you pointed something out a little earlier. It seems like every so often they do make some sort of rotation, so they don't have the same guys on the front lines. And right now, fortunately, though, there aren't any seems like any crowds out here, just the media. And like you said, Will Thomas tweeting out, we are exempt from that curfew, although a little earlier the chopper up above was asking that we clear the area, presumably because they were going to launch, like we saw, the tear gas and the smoke bombs out into the crowd. They didn't want us getting caught in it. We stayed out here. Fortunately, on this side, we didn't suffer any of that, but where Rick Boone is, just on the other side, you saw that it seemed like he was engaged in some of that activity. But out here, for the most part, just media. Everything is fairly calm. We have seen several armored vehicles coming in and out of that police line, presumably to the other side. Now, you have to understand that this is one long street, but there are alleyways. Those alleyways are being blocked by mounted police officers, full tactical gear, on their horses, and we did see them at 1 second seem like they wanted to approach up to the police line here, but they did remain rather in place. So we're waiting to see how this all plays out. But right now, about 55 minutes into this curfew, and it seems like for the most part, Baltimore is starting to heed that curfew.
And that is certainly good news tonight, Marina. Thank you. We are looking at Marina's pictures here where she is behind one side of this police line, or in front of the police line. Then we've got Sky Fox up over the scene where we can see the other side of this police line. And as Marina reported, it looks like for the most part people have dispersed. The intersection you're looking at right now, where you can see those armored vehicles, was full about 30 minutes ago. About 100 people, a crowd of 100 defiant people were still there. But for the most part, Baltimore City has heeded this curfew that began 51 minutes ago.
I want to give you one little update. We mentioned a short time ago that there was some information being reported about a fire at a library right in this jurisdiction. Reading a tweet from a John Swain. He is a reporter for The Guardian. He says that that fire beside the Pratt Library was in fact caused by a tear gas grenade that landed on some trash, and its spark set a small fire. So it was nothing, that's why we're not seeing some big response to a fire trucks or anything. I assume that fire's been put out. It was a small fire, the result of a tear gas canister landing on some trash.
A lot of people were questioning why put this curfew in effect. We heard one man tell our Rick Boone that, they can't tell him what to do and when to go home because they didn't start it. He was implying the police started it with the death of Freddie Gray. Certainly, we were expecting a report on what happened to that 25-year-old man whose death was the catalyst for all of this. He died while in police custody of a severe spinal cord injury after Baltimore police arrested him. We don't know exactly all of the details. We do know the 6 officers who were involved in his arrest are now on paid administrative leave. We're expecting a report to come out this Friday. We do know that Maryland Senator Barbara Mikulski has asked the Justice Department to investigate this case. This is a result of all of this. Freddie Gray was buried yesterday. His funeral service was yesterday. Last night and yesterday afternoon, we saw vandals, we saw looting, we saw so many things in the streets of Baltimore. Today, for the most part, we have seen peaceful scenes. We have seen marches from community leaders, members of the clergy. We have seen people saying, not in our neighborhoods, we're going to take back our streets. We certainly understand the frustration of the people who were out here yesterday, but we don't want to handle it this way. We want to figure out another way. Let's start the dialogue and let's keep moving forward.
Again, what you're seeing, this is the intersection of North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, west side of Baltimore. This has kind of been the hot spot for activity during the last 24 hours or so. Police have formed a line that has been moving periodically in an attempt to disperse people who are violating the city-ordered curfew, curfew ordered issued by the mayor of Baltimore yesterday afternoon. That curfew in effect because of the state of emergency that exists in Baltimore, trying to calm things in that city and, as they say, maintain the peace. Tear gas canisters were fired into the crowd a little bit earlier, the crowd such as it was. It does appear to have had the desired effect by getting most of those people to leave. We do see from these images from our Sky Fox still some people lingering in the streets and the police department maintaining this line. I am not aware at this point from police reports, any other media reports, any of our reporters of any other significant activity happening in Baltimore. It is mainly this particular scene on the west side of Baltimore.
Yeah, what we're hearing or what we're not hearing from other parts of the city are reports of anything going on. People are heeding the curfew. We were there earlier today. We were on Federal Hill, which is sort of a direct contrast to what we're seeing here. There were people who were outside playing baseball and walking their dogs and playing with their children, seemingly oblivious to what was going on in this particular neighborhood in the city. However, as we were driving around the Inner Harbor, we did see National Guards members stationed around different restaurants and different businesses just in case something was going to happen tonight. We do know that the governor of Maryland declared a state of emergency, activated the National Guard, and as many as 2,000 members are deployed and on the streets of Baltimore tonight to serve as backup for Baltimore City Police.
All right, as you know from watching, we have a number of reporters on the scene in Baltimore, the Rick Boone, Marina Morocco. I think we had Sarah Simmons earlier this evening. We are going to continue to stay on top of what's happening in Baltimore. This is great because we're seeing Sky Fox kind of pan around and show you, in fact, that much of the area other than that intersection that we're seeing is quiet. Not many people on the street. See a couple of cars there. They may be people going to work, so things are quiet across most of the city. We'll continue to stay on top of this. We've got the news at 11 coming up in just a moment. Will Thomas will be here at the desk.
That's right. We're going to continue our coverage tonight live from Baltimore again. This is the intersection where things seem to be happening tonight. You can see a line of police officers and just a handful of people. Our coverage of this continues on the other side of the break. We'll be right back with Fox 5 News at 11.